Welcome. This is a narrated experience report sourced from Narrated.org, a public archive of psychoactive experience reports shared for educational and harm reduction purposes. This video is not an endorsement, not medical advice, and does not encourage illegal activity. Listener discretion is advised. A real-life nightmare. This experience was submitted under the username First Timer. Reported age 16. Reported gender male. The substances involved in this experience include cannabis, DMT, LSD. What follows is the original experience, with minimal edits for clarity. I live in a town where not a whole lot goes on. It's a dead valley with hot summers and cold winters, and there isn't really anything to do. Most kids my age find enjoyment in this valley resorting to drugs, alcohol and partying. When DMT became available to me through one of my friends, I was anxious to try it. I had never tried a hallucinogen before, and I had planned on taking acid one random weekday during my spring break. My friend and I were on my couch downstairs watching TV, waiting for my acid to kick in. It had been exactly an hour since I dropped my 2 tabs. 4, 15 they went in, and 5. Then on my couch he looked at me and asked me if I wanted to smoke DMT. I said no, but the tabs had dissolved by that time and we were now waiting for my acid trip to begin. He said if I smoked weed with my acid it would make my trip intense. I thanked him for the free ball and let him pack it. He loaded our bong with a base of weed and sprinkled DMT on top, then packed some more weed on top to cover it up. Not really feeling too nervous, more excited to enhance my trip actually, I took the hit. I killed the bowl entirely and held it in. Little did I know until I held the hit diddy packed 2.5 doses of DMT into the bowl. I had wondered why the taste was so bitter and had gotten such a harsh hit. Within milliseconds I began to experience a tingling sensation throughout my entire body. The world around me turned extremely bright, almost as if to turn the brightness setting on a TV all the way up. The volume of life became so high that it turned to just noise, and I couldn't even make out what I was hearing. I finally breathed out. The world turned darker than before I had smoked as my breath left my body. I felt it extend outward as if the air was attached to my lungs in some sort of way. It was almost impossible to breathe, and honestly, I don't remember doing it. I looked around the room and watched objects magnify and furniture distort and disappear. Then I remembered I had the bong in my hand and I put it on my coffee table. From this point the entire world around me turned many different shades of the color red. This is where my nightmare began. I thought I had smashed a bong on my table and cut my hand open as I felt a very warm liquid on my hand with the bong as I placed it on the table. I went immediately to look at my hand and I watched my fingers disappear from my hand. Then I watched my feet disappear from my legs. Then my arm from my body. I freaked out and started to feel parts of my body to see if they were still there. I touched my chest, my arm and then my leg. My friend stood up at this point and asked me what the hell I was doing, and this only made everything worse. I actually thought I had ripped the limbs off of my body and peeled flesh away from bone. At this point I literally accepted death because I thought I was dying. I thought I had ripped my skin and body parts off because I was tripping so hard. I thought I had ripped my skin and body parts off because I was tripping so hard. Then I blacked out and remember looking at my friend while I was sitting in the same place on my couch. I couldn't move and felt like every bone in my body was broken. I thought I was dead and that I could see the world around me still. Looking around, I realized I was tripping harder than I ever imagined I could. Ships that I couldn't draw or explain were floating in midair. Every material thing inside my house disassembled and floated in midair. My TV screen zoomed out at me and took over my entire field of vision. I just wanted it to be over at this point. I wanted to wake up. I looked at my hand again, remembering how I thought I had smashed the bond and saw my watch was a snake, so I took it off. I took my wallet and phone out of my pockets too and placed them on the table and took my shoes off and sat down. I then asked my friend if everything was okay. He said yes. I asked if I broke the bowl. He said no. I asked if I spilled bomb water. He said no. I asked how long it had been. He said 1 minute and 15 seconds. I then looked outside and thought if anything I wanted to be where it was bright and shiny, where I could see the sun and try to be happy. I put my watch and shoes back on and then took my phone and wallet and walked outside into my backyard. My shins felt like they weren't there and every step I took was like walking on water. The ground became distorted and almost grew like wherever I placed my feet. Still peeking, I walked outside and sat down in a chair around my table. He followed me out and we sat outside while I looked at the still extremely insane yet mild hallucinogens compared to what I had seen while inside on my couch. Looking up at the sky, I couldn't tell whether it was cloudy or sunny. All I know was it was brighter outside. I asked him what I did and he told me I was calm and breathing just fine the entire time. I had no fast, sudden movements and didn't seem as if in a panic at all. I talked just fine and seemed close to perfectly normal. At this point, every brick on my brick wall was a ticky head and they were all talking to me. I was ready for the hallucinations to be over. I wanted to wake up from my horrible nightmare, but time was the only thing that would help. I asked him at this point how long it had been, and he said 2 minutes and 30 seconds. As my friend finished his cigarette, we walked back inside and upstairs to chill and watch some TV. I don't remember the next 27.5 minutes of my life. I do remember each horrible visual I witnessed, each feeling I had, the sound of life during my nightmare, and most of all my acceptance of death. I had relived this nightmare every single night for about 2 months straight and even experienced another dream that recalled every same feeling I had while on DMT, only in a different nightmare. Insomnia and paranoia followed for a very long time as well. I didn't sleep for that night, and got about 4 or so hours of sleep for every night after that until about a month ago. I began to become a captive in my room because I was afraid that if I opened doors I wouldn't find behind them what I thought was really there. I didn't sit in that same place on my couch for the next day. I don't recommend this substance at all. It was and might remain the most horrible and terrifying experience of my entire life. The visuals I can't explain to anyone and no words even come close. The feeling of acceptance of death hasn't gone away and I remember it completely. When I had heard you die on DMT and come back to life, I didn't know it would be in that way. Experiences like this can be deeply personal and unpredictable, and are influenced by mindset, environment, and many other factors. If you choose to explore altered states of consciousness, education, preparation, and harm reduction are essential. Thank you for listening.